All right, family, welcome back to the Sunny Side View. Of course, I'm your host, Sunny B, and today we are going to be diving into a vibrant conversation on sexuality with, of course, my good friend, my good soror, Miss Michelle herself. Now, I like to say Michelle is a sexologist. Some people may call her a therapist, a sexuality educator, but I like the word sexologist, and we're really ready to explore a brighter perspective. So let's uncover, I should say, the shades of sexuality together. So please welcome my good friend, my good sister, Michelle is in the building. Hey, girl.
Hey, Sunny.
I'm so glad to sit down and talk to you just about this. You and I have talked a little bit about it, and sharing, especially coming from a predominantly Black church background. This is not a conversation that was open as we were growing up. And so I'm so excited to see, you continue to get all of your degrees and all of those good things. So I'm going to ask you, what inspired you to become a sex therapist, sexuality educator, sexologist? What inspired you to do that?
So, many years ago, when this was about 20 years ago, I was talking with friends, and I'm very comfortable around the topic of sexuality. And I really didn't even know that it was such a thing as a sex therapist at that time, because let's be honest, in some of our communities, we don't even talk about therapy.
Yeah.
Itself, let alone talk about the different types of therapy that are actually in existence.
Yeah.
So when it came down to thinking about what I wanted to do, I was like, I'm very comfortable talking about this. And then I had so many people that's like, oh my gosh, they cringed at the idea of even having a conversation around it. And so I was like, oh, well, this doesn't bother me. I wouldn't mind talking to people about sex.
Yeah.
On a daily basis. And then I started doing some research. I was like, oh, it's sex therapist is a thing.
Yes.
I can go to school for.
Yes.
I know what I'm going to be when I grow up.
Yes. And you did go to school for it, right? Because you have 3 degrees. What's your degrees in?
So I have a BS in organizational leadership. I have a master's in social work, and I also have a master's in education and human sexuality.
Yes, come on, 3 degrees. We'd love to see it.
That's what we gotta do. That's what we do.
Yeah, we love to see hood life women. Sightly and scholarly is in the building, so I'm so excited. So excited to be able to share that, for you to share that with us. So you touched on something as you were talking about your own journey. Why do you feel like sex is such a bad word? And I'm really talking about coming from my perspective as women, even before we get into the demographic of Black women, but as women, when I look at how people discuss differently, even Taylor Swift versus how they discuss Travis Kelce, who is, her partner right now, right? I think about, how we are objectified in that space. So sex can be made to be uncomfortable from a woman's perspective. Why do you feel like that is?
I feel like it was perpetuated throughout history for women to be silent and be seen.
Ooh, and I think say that again. That was so good.
We grew up with this idea that it's okay for us to be silent and just be seen and just be, I'm gonna be honest with you, to be used. Ooh. It wasn't even about our pleasure. It was all about the male perspective. The male gaze has been in functionality since the beginning of time. Everything for their pleasure. And even with that, we have found ourselves not even trying to be vocal about our needs, about our wants, about our desires. So we have even throughout history, because I feel like the voice is getting a little louder now, but throughout history, we have shrunk our voices about sexuality and have just gone with whatever everyone told us to do. And even when you look down in history, everything about sexuality started off with a man. Because we know men were the doctors, they were the philosophers,
That's so good. I never thought about it like that. That's so good.
Even when you think about our body parts, the women body parts were discovered, and people can't see, but the quote unquote, discovered by men.
Wow.
So a lot of our body parts are named after men. The fallopian tube is Dr. Fallopian. He is a man. The G spot.
Hey, I had no idea.
A man. So our body parts were named after men.
Wow.
So that's how much the woman's narrative was removed.
Wow.
From the entire conversation. You figure we have just got to the point where we started exploring the clitoris, the insides of the clitoris, like the makeup of it.
Yeah.
Where they were already on the moon, created bikes, cars, airplanes, and still didn't know.
And we just now figuring out. That's a sweet spot.
Figuring out what the clitoris does and the internal makeups of it. So we have been silenced in so many ways. We're not even talking about Black women. Oh my God. That's a whole nother perspective. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's
I wish people could see my face right now. Like, I am in literal shock. Like, I never knew the history of it. And now it makes, not that it makes it right, but it makes so much more sense why even today we have predominantly male, rich, and white men who are making laws about women's bodies.
Right. Right.
And so when I think about it, I'm like, oh, like this is a history. Y'all been doing this.
They've been doing this thing.
Yeah.
They've been doing it.
Wow. Okay. I mean, you jump right in. You already said clitoris and everything. So I mean, we just end at this point. So we just gonna keep diving deeper. Let me when we talk through this, you know, in some of your experience, as you talked about getting to know your own body, you know, what are some of the most common challenges that couples you feel like face when it comes to sexual health and well-being? Because, you know, I'm married and I can say even with 7 years spent with my husband, I feel like we're still learning things about each other. And I'm like, man, is that normal to, like, you know, maybe not normal might not be the right word, but thinking about if I was more, you know, less hesitant to share, or if he was less hesitant to share what he really wanted, if we would even be further along. So what are some of the things that you have seen in those type of things when it comes to sexual health and well-being in marriages and couples?
So I think one of the biggest things that I've seen is the level of honesty. And when I say honesty, I'm not just talking about I don't lie to you, you don't lie to me. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the level of sexual honesty within yourself.
Ooh, that's good.
Because when it comes down to sex in a relationship, you're really talking about being able to properly communicate your needs, your wants, your desires to your person. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know yourself, that's going to be hard to communicate. That's going to be hard to talk about. So having those type of conversations is going to be challenging. Because you first got to do something that is called body mapping, sexual body mapping.
Okay, sexual body mapping. Yeah, I hope the Saints is writing down this. This is good. Go ahead.
So what that is, there is an actual therapy called body mapping therapy, and it has been intertwined with sexuality. So it's sexual body mapping, where you actually have like an image of a body. So for people at home, you can do this, even if you want to do it with a stick figure, you know, draw an outline of a body. And then what you're going to do is go over your body parts and using, this is another method called sensate focus, but we can talk about that in a second. But you're going to like take your time and go over and touch your body, have your body be touched in certain parts. And this is not about sexual pleasure at the moment, but just finding out what feels good to you.
Oh wow.
What I like being touched here. I did not like being touched there. If you press there a little bit harder, that was it. That's that spot. So being able to know that stuff for yourself, because we I don't want to say our society, but it is normal in our society to have great understanding of men masturbating. They can masturbate as much as they want, whenever they want, and it's normalized as a function of life. But in masturbating, they find out more about themselves. They find out what they like, how they like to be touched, how they like to be groped. And women, it's shunned upon masturbating because now you're fast. You don't have to know that type of information. What are you masturbating for? Why are you being so nasty? But we need to know ourselves too. We need to know what we like, how we want to be touched, hey, a little too rough right there. Don't touch it like that. So we need to know that type of information as well. So body mapping gives you that chance to go over, with your partner. I like to say when I'm helping couples, a sexless night. Let's go for a sexless night. No intercourse. Where you're just taking time to just learn each other's bodies.
That's good. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of the mapping aspect, but I talk to so many women who are unhappy just with marriage and with their partner and with I've talked to so many people who are unhappy in these relationships or who are sleeping with lots of different people to chase the high of being happy. I think it's really concerning because then it becomes really dangerous. Regardless of even my biblical views, it becomes a health risk as you start to do these different things. And so, what can we do to have real conversation? Because one thing as I was preparing for this, I was talking to my husband and I was like, when we were growing up, from my perspective, it was just don't do it. Don't do it. But we also were told to get married as soon as possible. Like that was it's better to marry than to burn. That was a big thing. And the truth was I wasn't ready for marriage. But I got married a few times, And so as we were talking through it, I was like, man, nobody ever talked to me. I didn't have a sex talk with my parents. Like I learned about it in sex ed, maybe when I got to like the 8th grade or something. But nobody really had a conversation with me about, what was happening, what my body was feeling, why I was starting seeing hair under my like nobody had a conversation with me about these things. And so I had to find out a lot of things prematurely, I would say, and without any safe space to ask those questions. And it's going to bring me to my next question, because I can say for me as someone, who I always like to say I'm an overcomer instead of a victim. That's just my verbiage. But as someone who, it has overcome or continues to overcome sexual abuse and trauma from a childhood, that this stuff plays out later on in your life. I'm in a lot of support groups, and a lot of my sisters in these support groups and some of my brothers in these support groups are dealing today with things that happened to them as a child, or when they first went away to college, different things, whether it was, abuse, trauma, all of these issues, assault, these things that occur, and how we weren't taught to deal with it as we are bringing it into this space where now we are in a relationship and we're trying every day, to show up, and you're not enjoying sex because, like you said, you haven't done the mapping. So you can't tell someone like, oh, I don't like to be choked because it make me feel like this, you know what I mean? Or whatever, people do whatever they do. The Bible said the marriage bed is undefiled. So whatever y'all do in y'all bed is y'all bed, but not right. But when you don't talk about that stuff, it does possibly pop up. What is some advice that you would give to somebody who maybe is carrying baggage or is carrying this load, and maybe they don't realize it's not that you hate sex, it's that you are carrying this load and you haven't communicated through it just yet?
Right. So for that person, I would definitely say, this is going against what we believe in our culture, but go to therapy. Because
people go to therapy.
therapy.
The Bible says faith without works is dead.
Yes.
I'm a fast, I'm a pray, and I'm gonna go to my therapist every single week, faithfully.
And it's important to seek out a sex therapist.
Yes.
Why?
That's so good.
There are some all therapists have an ability to talk to you about your life struggles, but there are therapists who have specialties, and it's for a reason. The education behind my master's in human sexuality degree gave me that deep dive into sexual trauma, sexual issues, sexual health. So there's a level of education that comes with the sex therapist that you're not going to get with I don't want to say a standard therapist, but
a generalist, right?
So it's really important to go to someone who can help you through your trauma, because you're talking about bringing up things that may be in the past that you probably suppressed or try to push up your thought process as much as you can, but you don't realize that those things show up in bed. Because when you're in bed with your person, with your partner, you are your naked self. And when you try to enjoy pleasure, involves you being comfortable. You can't feel complete pleasure if you're not completely comfortable. So when you are trying to become comfortable, those things from your past continue to come up and show up in bed. So we bring a lot of baggage not only into relationships, but also in the bedroom with us. So we have to work through those issues so we can start dropping those things off at the bedroom door, because it don't need to come in. You need to know that you're working on it with your partner. We're working through this together. What you can work on by yourself, and then work on with your partner, because those traumas, it took two people or more for that trauma to happen. It didn't happen to you alone. And instead of trying to carry it alone, you may need somebody else to help you work through the healing process of the effects of that trauma.
I love that.
To work with not just your therapist, but with your partner as well.
And so I'm glad that you said this again, because I think statistics are saying that 1 in 4 women, according to CDC, 1 in 4 women have experienced. It says actually have experienced. Experienced completed or attempted rape in their lifetime. That, first of all, that's crazy. I did not know that. But one in 4 women. And so what that tells me is, as we are having these conversations, as you're going to premarital counseling or couples therapy, instead of saying, oh my God, you thinking, well, so-and-so just don't never want to sleep with my wife, don't never want to sleep with me. My husband don't never want to sleep with me, because it says 1 in 26 men, right? So it's like, when you're thinking your spouse never wants to sleep with you, it may be something else, because I can say from my, and again, I can give personal experience, but also from what I've the people that I've talked to in my support groups. But as somebody who has experienced rape, what we don't often like to talk about is that your body responds even while you're in fear. So, there was moisture while I didn't want things to happen. And so now, with my spouse, sometimes it could, especially before I was in therapy, it would happen where it would sling me back to 20 years ago, because the way your body is responding and feeling like you have no control, which can then make you push away from someone. So like you said, it's so imperative to get therapy. That's what I had to do. It's important that I also had to go to a sex therapist. And then in addition, going to my support group to let me know, like, I'm not crazy. This happens to more than just me. I just happen to be a little freer to talk about it at this juncture in my life that I wasn't 20 years ago. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I had read somewhere that you know, the number one reason for divorce typically is money and then sex. And I'm like, man, what if it's people just don't know that something happened? And we need to have a talk throughout it. It's not that they don't want to sleep with you because they sleeping with somebody else. It's that, hey, I feel safe with you because I don't have to sleep with you. You know what I mean? There are thoughts that kind of come along with that. So, and it really is going to bring me to this other question that I had about creating. How do you like approach to create a safe and non-judgmental space for, like, you know, people who want to consult with you to discuss these intimate topics? Or, you know, how do you encourage people to discuss these intimate topics, you know, that may be scary?
So my first thing that I like to make sure that I do is create just a comfortable atmosphere. And the comfortable atmosphere is one of non-judgment and helping people understand, like, I am not here to judge you. I'm not here to, the biggest thing that I found to be most helpful is to not only verbalize not taking sides, but actually showing not taking sides. Because men, when they come to, not all, because nothing is absolute, but I have seen that when men come to sessions with me, they automatically assume that I have the woman's side. So it's like, oh, whatever I say, you're going to pick her. There are no sides here. There are no sides here. I'm very neutral, and you have to verbalize that in multiple ways. It's not just enough to say I'm not taking sides, but even in your actions, in the things that I say, or even the suggestions, and also giving space for all voices to be heard, recognized, and respected. And I found after doing that, the men they open up. They open up because they don't feel like, you know, it's gonna be
it's not, y'all not jumping me. Y'all ain't jumping me.
Right. And I've, even in my experience, I've had, you know, a wife reach out to me, and I started sessions with them. And then when she realized that this is not, you know, hey girlfriend, I'm on your side type of situation, and I'm going to show all faults so we can get to the root of the problem. She was upset. She was upset.
Well, I hope you share this with her and be like, sis, listen, you want to get to the good. So
listen, if that's your goal, if that's your true goal, I need to know your true goal. Because if you want to find the root cause, sometimes it is you. Are you prepared for yourself to be a part of the problem? You may be the person who asks for the assistance, but are you prepared for yourself to be a part of the problem?
Oh, that's so good. Oh my goodness. Okay, wait. Okay, so Michelle, as we're like unpacking this, from what you have seen since you have started to really delve into this work, you know, how has the field of sex therapy evolved over that time, or even over the years, and what emerging trends do you see?
So from my perspective, especially finishing school and talking with people, my demographics that I'm focused on is men with erectile dysfunction, but also Black men and Black women. That's my demographics of concern. Gotcha. And what I've seen evolve is the narrative of Black people in sexuality. So often our voices were missed in conversations. It was missed in studies. It was missed in education. One of the things that I really want to work on is producing a platform, a tech platform, but also I want to do a physical copy of Black genitalia, what it looks like, what it's supposed to look like, what does diseases look on our genitalia look like, what does pleasure look like on our genitalia? Because, you know, even in one of my classes, they was like, oh, when you get excited, your skin turns red and the veins can show and you may see purple. And I was like, not on a Black penis. You don't want to see that on no black penis. That's not what we doing. So even in our education, we've come a long way to start including those black narratives and those black studies that are focusing on what happens to black bodies, how are black bodies different from white, not just white bodies, but other bodies. Also just, the narrative of different cultural norms and talking about it and normalizing it. There is this, people always over sexualize black people.
Ooh, oh my goodness. This about to turn into a whole nother podcast. Please.
They over sexualize our men.
Oh God.
They over sexualize our women.
Yep.
Over sexualize our children. Because of their body shapes, and it's just so much that we have gone through as a culture, and we are now starting to hear these narratives out there and study. There are studies. If you look up Dr. Lex Brown, she has done studies. She is phenomenal. She is amazing. She has a whole thing about teaching children and parents, helping parents become safe sex and safe sex positive parents. Dr. Lex Brown. You have Dr. Shamira Howard. She's been on so many different networks and publications. Just speaking about sexual health. Dr. Shamika Thorpe, sexologist, Brittany Broderick Smith. Like, we have people out there putting our voices out there, saying what it's like to be black in the sexuality realm. Just, even talking about the pedagogy of hip hop. Goes into sexuality. Making that voice be heard. So that's how I see it evolving, and I'm so excited to join the ranks of those who are putting it out there for our people in our language so we can understand it.
So absolutely yes. I hearing you talk about it, I'm a middle school teacher, and I was telling my students about twerking and what we have Americanized as twerking. And then we were looking at videos from Ghana of beautiful African children, doing the same dance without being sexualized.
Right.
And I told them about how, America, whenever something's different, it becomes really sensual, especially when it comes to us. And so we were talking about that. So absolutely, exactly what you're saying. But you mentioned a word that I wanted to ask what you would how you would define it. And you were talking about sex positive. What does that actually mean? What does it mean to be to have a sex positive mindset? I've heard that term before.
So sex positive is trying to remove the negativity out of sexuality so that people can actually learn and make choices on their own.
Right. Okay.
So often we are trying to, we want to tell everyone how to feel.
Yeah.
We want to tell everyone how to think.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't align with how we say it should be, then we're against it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're but we are often not open to the idea that others may think differently.
Yeah. And you're so correct, because, again, as a child who was inappropriately touched, I felt shame because I felt like something dirty was happening to me at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I felt like something dirty, it was at which I took on as my fault, because I hadn't received any information saying that this is wrong. You shouldn't be feeling in this manner. And so one of the things that I have done, and that we've done with our children is, we don't use made up words. So, my kids are very sure they're using vagina. They're using the word breast. They're using the word penis. And it really came from me trying to explain at 10 years old to people that cousin so-and-so is touching me, but I'm using words like my poo-poo and my, and it's cute until you got to put it on a police report. and then they're gonna ask you what that means and make you feel like it's not what you think it is. And so, you know, sometimes it's always funny because, you know, when my kids are just in school and they're talking about whatever life, you know, my kids will say, I came out of my mama's vagina.
I know that's right. You better tell them. You better tell them and let it be known.
Can you please not use the V word?
And see, that's the part of the negativity, because the sex positivity is going to give you the strength.
That's it. That's the word.
To feel okay. Remove shame. Remove judgment about talking about the reality of what it is. It is called a vagina. Why must we call it cookies? Let's think about this. Do you want to teach your child that it's called cookies, and then when somebody comes up and asks for an actual cookie, they open up their legs?
That's what I'm saying.
We don't want that.
I don't know. Michelle, I don't know if you're old enough to see this, but I don't know if you ever saw the movie Kindergarten Cop. But the little boy says, boys have penis, girls have vagina. And it was like, that was the first time, that came out when I was really young. And that was the first time I was like, oh my gosh, this kindergartner is saying what I can't say. Right. Like, that was the moment that taught me, like, oh.
And it's so, you know, it's so, I don't want to, it is sad. I was trying to find a way to say it. It's sad because you know how many people I've talked to as adults who still do not have clarification or understanding that the vulva and vagina are two different things. The vulva is anything external, and the vagina is the canal. That's what it is. It is the canal. That's the vagina. But we call everything down there, oh, my vagina, or my... No, you do know that's just the opening, the insert, the canal. That's the only thing that's the vagina. Yeah. So, and we're talking about adults.
I know. Again, when we, you know, when I've been, you know, sharing, even in like some of the wives groups and things that I'm in, I wonder what the data really says about people who have actually ever achieved an orgasm. And it's like, it's a bad word. Like, they were like, wait, y'all be having them? Like, it's a real thing. And I'm like, if we don't start having these conversations, people are miserable. Like, people are miserable with it. Because I'm like, it's you and your spouse. You're supposed to live it up. Like, do what you're gonna do, you know?
It's so bad. I'm drawing a blank on the orgasm gap, how bad it is, but just give me 1 second. So heterosexual women have been known to orgasm about 45 to 55% of the time. Heterosexual men orgasm 95% of the time.
If a baby gotta come out of here, I deserve all the orgasms.
Listen, if the world revolved on orgasms for population, it would be 2 people here. And that's just what it would be. It'd be like 3 people walking around like, hey, if parents made it. Because it just, listen, that's how bad the gap is.
That's wild. And the truth is, you know, we don't want to talk about these things, but in truth, you know, it is a tool that makes you closer, you know, to your person, you know, to my husband, you know, to his wife. You know, it makes us closer together as a partnership, as a couple, and that is the truth. And so I think until we start to empower, I think that's the word that I've been looking for, until we start to empower one another to go and have these conversations, and to at least, you know, raising up young people to be comfortable with real words. Right. You said the mapping and different things, so that as you go into these, you know, you're like, yes, I want to get married. Well, I don't want you to get married and then be miserable. You know, I'm like, I don't, that ain't it. That ain't it. We can go.
Another conversation that's talked about, and I know for me, growing up in a church, and returning back to the church prior to going into my studies, I was married at the age of 21.
Same, girl.
And from the church people, the church folk, ain't nobody had no conversations for me around sexuality in any aspect of it. But for me, it was always asked, like, well, what do your husband want? What do your husband like? How do your husband want? How do your husband want that? And no one ever talked about what I liked, how did I want it, so for me, I go into my experience, I focused more on his pleasure than I focused on my own.
Yeah.
And even being comfortable voicing what I wanted, because you can start to feel shame around your desires.
Yeah.
And ostracized for having such desires.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that level of honesty is so important in a relationship, about being honest about your true desire. If it's BDSM exploration, if it's kink, whatever it is, whatever it is that you think that you might be into, you need to voice
whatever y'all doing.
You need to voice it so people can try it. Have that partner that's willing to try those things with you. You don't have to want to do everything. But one of the major misconceptions about sex and relationships that I've seen is that sex starts with desire. Everyone thinks that sex starts with desire. I have to have a desire. I have to have a desire to want. You have to have a desire to want to try this. Sex starts with willingness.
Oh, that's good.
You have to be willing. And then through being willing, you can get to desire. But being in bed with your partner doesn't mean that you automatically have the desire. But you're saying, I'm here and I'm willing. So now you're open to allowing those other feelings to happen, those other emotions to happen, those things to take place. And I believe in our willingness, we can break through some things. We can learn some things. We can get to the heart of some things. I really want to try this. I really want to try that. Oh, well, let's see how that works. But I think that's one of the biggest things that we do have to try to focus on, is just being honest.
Oh, yeah. No, first of all, this has been amazing. I want to open up maybe an anonymous document and ask people to put any questions, that they may have, and have you come back and talk about, some of these different things that people are really asking about. Cause I think we just do a disservice when we don't do this. For me, I would rather be discussing this, and for me, with somebody who knows Christ and understands the sanctity of marriage. I would rather be doing it because I would rather you teach me than somebody who doesn't honor the sanctity of marriage, for me. And so I'm so thankful for the work that you're doing. I'm sure that you get so much pushback, but I'm so excited that you have come, and I'm definitely gonna have you back so I'm gonna ask everybody some different questions that they may have.
I'm excited about it.
We just gonna answer the questions, we going right through. We're gonna answer these questions. Do you have any way for people to contact you if they would like to discuss some things or set up some consultation with you? Is there a way that people can connect with you?
Yeah, so right now I'm still using my personal IG account, so people can definitely reach me there. That would be Shell, CHELLE _Booker, BOOKER. People can follow me there. They can message me there. If it's something that's really some personal desire to have sessions or anything like that, when you inbox me there, I'll be more than happy to send you my email and things like that so we can discuss things. Because when it comes to sexuality, it is individualistic. It is not something that, one blanket statement can cover all issues or all topics. It is very individualized, just as your pleasure is individualized. So we have to take that type of approach.
I love that. Well, thank you again, Michelle. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this very enlightening episode. Super excited that I got to say the word orgasm today. So that's so thank you for tuning in to the Sunnyside View, of course, with our brilliant guest, the Miss Michelle Booker. Keep exploring, keep learning, and let's continue to embrace the diverse colors of our sexuality so that we can be whole, y'all. We can be whole. Join us next time for more insightful conversations that brighten our perspectives. Don't forget to stay on the sunny side. Again, till we see you next time, I love you and good night.
Thank you for listening to my Sunnyside View.